you can't sit around for anybody to notice you. The reason I have what I have now is because I spent hours just sitting at the computer trying to find contacts, like how you did with that RSVP thing. You know what I mean? Like, I will Google search, I reach out, I like send media kits. Like, I did that. I still do that in my career to brands who don't know me. You know what I mean? I still pitch ideas, and it might necessarily work, but the most they can do is say no, and the most they could do is say or not respond. But that doesn't mean that in 3 months from now, they're not going to see me somewhere else and be like, oh, she wrote an email, let me respond back to her. You know what I mean?
Hey, this is Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creators like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success. Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 146 of the Dreams and Drive podcast, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear from today's guest, Nadia Aboulhosn. So the story starts back in 2010 when Nadia started her fashion blog, and little did she know in 8 years how much she would accomplish. Today, Nadia still blogs at nadiaaboulhosn.com. She now has her own self-titled clothing line and is a sign model at Wilhelmina. And you guys, this story of persistence, of resilience, and Nadia's hustle is one that I know you guys will be inspired by. In this episode, we really dig deep into how you can turn small wins into big wins, stand out, and just kill it when it comes to your dream driving journey. We talk about how you can grow your brand without sacrificing your soul and who you are, how you can stand out in blogging, how to pitch brands, and so much more. And one of my favorite stories is Nadia talking about how she faked being her manager for 3 years, but how that led to her getting bigger checks. So what I hope that you get from this episode is the motivation to keep going. No matter at what point you are in your journey, you need to know that the best is yet to come, right? You do not know what blessings are ahead for you, so you cannot stop now. Remember, show notes are available at dreamsanddrive.com. And if you are loving this episode, please share it with a friend. I love it when you share on social. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Dreams and Drive, and you can use the hashtag Dreams and Drive as well. And for our giveaway this week, I have extended episode 145's giveaway with Jennifer Lewis. So we're going to still be giving away the Mother of Black Hollywood to 2 lucky listeners. So just go to dreamsanddrive.com/win. That's dreamsanddrive.com/win if you want to enter to win the Mother of Black Hollywood. It's a great book, and I think it goes really well with the theme of this episode, which is all about standing out and turning small wins into big wins. So definitely go and check that out. Hope you guys enjoy this episode. Let's get into it. Hi, Nadia. Welcome to this episode of Dreams and Drive. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
You know what? I love to start interviews going back in time. I think it's so cool and sometimes so reflective to think about who we were as children. So if I had to say, what was inspiring the 8-year-old Nadia, how would you respond to that?
8-year-old Nadia. I mean, I feel like it's just like super cliche to say just like my family and like my parents, and seeing how what inspired me back then was, my dad being like first generation coming over here and, from Lebanon, and being able to, have the success that he has. I mean, I think he spent like 10 years just getting his bachelor's degree and learning English and everything. So being able to see all his hard work and being able to provide for our family. And my mom was like valedictorian of her class, whatever. So being able to see like them and how much they accomplished and at such a young age really inspired me. And then when I started hitting like teenage years, I think what inspired me mostly was like people telling me I couldn't do things, or like the feeling of being left out in a way, like in a sense, made me work harder to accomplish whatever I felt was right for me at the moment.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Orlando, but I spent most of my summers in like Jersey and New York City. So I was really like spent a lot of time in both places, and I'm glad I did, because I got to see and do so much more than had I just been in one location.
Yeah, so you have both flavors. You have that Northeast Jersey, New York flavor, right? Then you also have that Southern Florida chill. You know how it is to live in both worlds. What was the dream back then? Like, did you ever imagine that you would be what you are now?
I always thought I was like going to be, as a kid, I thought I was going to be like a veterinarian because I like animals and stuff. But it was crazy because when I was a kid, like no one really knows. I used to like interview myself in the mirror, like as a child.
You know, I did the same thing. I feel like a lot of us who like in this influencer, you know, roles now, we had these dreams like when we were younger, but they just manifested themselves in different ways, right?
It's so strange. And like as a kid, like in how the world is now versus like then and now versus like how the internet and how much has evolved and everything. Like as a kid, for us to even get on the internet was like the dial up, and you would think that this would even be a career, especially back then.
So you wanted to be a vet. You were still talking to yourself in the mirror and doing, you know, I used to do speeches. I used to write because I grew up Jehovah's Witness. And so like my mom would take us to Kingdom Hall, but only the men were allowed to like give the Sunday talks or whatever. But when I would go home, I would say, you know what? I'm going to write my own talk and have my own, right? So I would write it out. I would get the Bible index, use the index in the back to find words or whatever. And I would have my own speeches too and perform them to my teddy bears and stuff. So I definitely feel you in that one.
I used to like literally just be in bed, like interviewing myself questions. And like when I grew up, some I kind of thought about how stupid it was. But now that I'm even older, I'm like, it made so much sense.
And that also helps you, I feel like as young children, it also helped you in a way be confident with your thoughts, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
Even if nobody else believed in what you were saying, like you had to have some kind of confidence in what you were saying, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's fast forward to high school years, right? Graduated 12th grade. What was the plan for you?
I mean, there were steps. I didn't even graduate from the actual high school that I was supposed to because I was like getting really, really bad and like acting reckless or whatever. And so I pulled myself out of like, I think about all the lessons that I learned like growing up, and I was maybe 15, 16, and I told my mom, like, I had one more time, like if I fought somebody, I would get expelled from school. Wow. And I remember coming home one day, like, Mom, if I fight one more person, they're going to expel me. So I need you to pull me out of school and put me into like in Florida, they had like at the community college, they had a high school program, and I told her to pull me out and let me go in there. And I ended up graduating a year earlier than the regular class I was supposed to be, just because I was around like more adult-like people instead of people who acted, you know, like children, even though I was a child and I didn't consider myself one.
Acted like children.
Exactly. And, but leaving high school, I was already in a college setting. So, you know, a lot happened when I was like 18, 19. So I took a year off, from college, and I went back and I wanted to do something in journalism. I started actually wanting to do broadcasting and like hosting events and stuff like that. I stopped liking the feeling of talking to people. So I liked being able to control my own like atmosphere. And I had just started blogging when I was in college, like the first year of college, and fashion was another way for me to express myself without having to physically, like verbally say something to somebody. So I decided to take up, I figured I could do journalism in a way, but do it through the internet. And, you know, once it started picking up, some people started noticing me, I kind of just ran with it. And I had applied to FIT after I got my 2-year AA degree, like my basic degree to further my career. And FIT denied me for fashion design because I can't draw for anything. And when they denied me, I sort of was just like, okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to take my blog that's somewhat popping at the moment and try to make money out of it to design my own collection. And it took me like 7 years, but I saved up enough money to, you know, be able to launch my own thing. And it worked out for the best.
So I can't wait till we get to that part of the story, but let's go back a little bit. So the year is 2010, you just launched your blog. You said that you liked fashion and this was a way for you to take journalism, but not necessarily have to talk to people. What were those that first year of blogging like for you? Like, was it just a hobby or did you take it seriously from the beginning?
I take a lot of things seriously only because like, I think it's like a Virgo aspect of me that anything that I like put stuff into, like energy into, I'm not going to half-ass it. I would, I remember my dad bought me a camera and like I had like my friends taking my pictures, but I would spend like hours picking out the photos and like literally like hours at the computer just trying to write up the perfect thing. And over the years, I got used to just being able to wing it because I got so used to it. But in the beginning, it was a hobby because I liked it, but it was also maybe 6 months into it, I knew that there was money into it. And once I saw that money could have been made from it, I ran with it really.
Do you remember how you promoted it in the early days? Because I know a lot of people who are listening in, they may just have started their own blogs or they may be starting something from scratch. Like, what were the first things you did to really get that initial following?
Well, now it's entirely different. I was on like Tumblr back then and there was no Instagram and I only had Blogspot. Like nobody was on Twitter. Like MySpace has like damn near just ended. You know what I mean? It was a totally different environment, but I would spend a lot of time like commenting on other people's things and telling them what I liked about them in a positive way so they could see me as a positive influence as well. But I think the biggest thing that like put me on was being on Tumblr and like looking different from everybody at the time. Like now I feel like a lot of people look like me, but back then when there wasn't like a strong influence on social media, it was nobody who had like big eyebrows like me and who had like, darker hair and a bigger like, frame. If that, you know what I mean? I'm bigger now, but back then I was smaller and still that just shows you how much the internet has grown that I'm still on the smaller end right now, but back then I was even smaller and I still wasn't like fully accepted in like this sort of like straight plus size universe that wasn't even really made then. I just think I physically looked different and I was half naked. Like I was out here wearing crop tops and bralettes, you know what I'm saying, that I got at the thrift store with blazers, vintage blazers, and nobody really my size looked like me. I was probably a 10 then, but nobody really physically weight-wise looked like me.
Was it ever scary for you? Were there ever times where you doubted what you were doing and thought of possibly changing your direction?
Later on in my career, not in the beginning. Later on when I was maybe 4 years into it, I was with different agents. Like I hadn't been with an agency. I was faking as my own manager for a really long time. And
you said faking as your own manager?
Yeah.
What do you mean faking? Like how do you?
I made a fake email and I was like, thanks so much for reaching out to Nadia. I forwarded it to my manager, which was a different email I was doing. And I was like, thanks so much for reaching out to Nadia. She'd love to work with you. Blah, blah, blah. I think the fake name was Jordan because people didn't was a girl or a guy, you know what I'm saying? And people, I did a lot of bullshitting to get work.
But you know what? You have to sometimes. Like I just did an episode 132, where I went to this gala, the Route 100 gala, and I invited myself to the gala, right? Because I really wanted to be there. So what I did was I Googled the Route 100 RSVP link, and whoever made the RSVP for the event didn't make it private. So I invited myself, right? And they accepted me and everything. And you got to do that sometimes.
Yep. But I faked like I was my manager for like 3 years. And because I realized that people just wanted me to do stuff for trading for, free clothes or whatever. And I didn't need like in the beginning, I used to thrift shop because I didn't have the money to be able to be out here buying like different stuff. You know what I mean? I worked at like a little small restaurant and the food court, a little Arab restaurant. And I was in college full time, so I couldn't afford getting nice things, and people were giving me things for free every once in a while, but that wasn't going to pay the bills. And especially to the point when I moved to New York and I was like on the verge of getting evicted from my apartment because I couldn't afford it. And it was the Heights. So, I mean, it's expensive, with time it's expensive. And so I faked like I was my own manager. And it wasn't until I did that I started getting actual like thousands of dollars out of brands because, they took me more seriously. And, I had to do what I had to do at that point. But back to the original question, which was, did you start doubting things? I didn't start doubting things until I signed with, like, it was a second agency I was signed to, and literally had like the managers there they assigned me to one manager and she didn't really understand my brand. I made my social media and my career off of being able to be myself, like an unfiltered version, and being unapologetic for like actually who I am. And if I do something wrong, then I'm going to apologize for it and grow from it. But she would tried to make me be something I wasn't. And so it made me insecure in a way to be posting the things that I usually do. And it was to the point, like, she literally called me like hood and ghetto. And
what? And she was your agent?
Yes.
So imagine how she was talking about you when you weren't in the room.
Exactly. And she was just saying like I posted like a old picture of me and my boyfriend when we dated when we were 19 years old, and I had like door knocker earrings in or whatever, Jordans, just like how I dress regularly. And she's like, you're posting this kind of content, blah, 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 like you're not wholesome and whatever. But at that point, it wasn't until I left the agency, like I got a lawyer involved and I left them, and I was super professional about it. I'm like proud of myself for being able to handle it the way that I did, but it took me a while to get back to, and then I swear later, like I went and met, I left with him, and maybe like 4 months later, I was kind of like, do I even want to blog anymore? Do I feel like this or whatever? And I went and I met with Instagram and Facebook in New York City. One of the main people there who like runs Instagram were telling me like, this and this is what's happening with social media or whatever. And statistics show that it's better when you're authentic and being your actual self. That's why you're doing so well. Your numbers are so well on social media. And it was complete opposite of what that girl at that agency told me, because she just wanted me to fit in with the other bloggers that are taking like pictures of flowers and they're going to brunch and they're taking wine glass pictures or whatever. It wasn't my aesthetic and it wasn't who I was. And I never really did it, but it was she was making me doubt myself as like these big corporations like Dove and all these big brands who didn't want to work with me because I wasn't like, quote, wholesome enough, when those brands don't necessarily feel that way about me. But at that point, that I let that person or that agency let me feel that way, because, sometimes you have to fit a certain mold to get money. It's how it is when someone doesn't know how to make money a certain way off of who you are naturally, then they try to make you be like mimic someone else in order to get or be whatever, my thing is like, if a brand doesn't want to work with me because they don't think I'm wholesome enough or they don't think I'm right for the brand, then that's on them. There's 20,000 other brands out there who think that what I stand for is what they stand for as well. So I'd rather work with someone who wants to work with me versus is feeling pressure to.
And that works for any type of relationship, right? Like if you have to convince someone that you're worth it to them, then you don't need to, you can, there's plenty of other people out there who want to be with you for you. One thing I want to ask you was, did you sign with an agency in the first place because you thought that might be better leverage for you to get better deals?
That, and it was really hard for me to keep up with all the work that I was doing.
Okay.
I had just done capsule collections with Boohoo, and I was writing for a magazine, and like I was modeling. It was a lot. I was super busy at that point when I was like, let me just sign with the agency. And when I got with the agency, it was even more money. You know what I mean? It was even more gigs, and it was great, but that probably only lasted a year until I was like, I can't have people. It was crazy. It wasn't the agency. It was just that single girl. You know what I mean? So I was like, if you want to give me another manager, I'm more than happy to stay. But they didn't want to give me a new manager because she was like the quote plus manager. So
they put you in a box,
basically, is the problem. And that's the problem. Like with anything, is that even like boxes in general, like frustrate me. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, you can't. And it's so crazy. Every time when everybody was saying like Kanye was crazy when he was trying to do fashion and he did that interview with Zayn or whatever, it was that interview he did in like London with that guy. His name starts with a Z, I think.
Oh, that music journalist. I think I forgot his name, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyways, he did that interview with that guy. Everybody's like, okay, Kanye is really crazy. But I was like, everything for me, what Kanye was saying, like hit home, because it was like, people were trying to box him into doing only one art form. And you can't do that because, I would literally, even when I talk about political stuff on my social platforms, like if I bring awareness to like Syria or Black Lives Matter or something, people are always like, you should just stick to what you know, which is fashion. Like, but how do you know that's all I know?
Are they in your head? Are they in your brain?
But that's exactly what I'm saying also, is that like these brands or agencies or whatever, the media, whoever it is, will try to box you in to only be one form of something because they're either intimidated of you or they're scared or whatever, or they're just lazy and they don't want to work. I don't know. It's a lot of things, but I really don't really talk about much about like the negative side of like the industry, but it took so long to build relationships. But I'm almost 30 this year and I'm tired. You know what I'm saying? Like, And then if it helps someone in the future not have to deal with what I had to go through, then.
So thinking about that new and upcoming, influencer, somebody who wants to be a fashion influencer, beauty influencer, whatever, how do you then make money off of who you are, but not sacrifice who you are? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think the best thing that I honestly also been doing since I first started blogging is I reach out personally to brands who I think are what I feel like I represent, and vice versa. You can't sit around for anybody to notice you. The reason I have what I have now is because I spent hours just sitting at the computer trying to find contacts, like how you did with that RSVP thing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like I Google search, I reach out, I send media kits. Like I did that. I still do that in my career to brands who don't know me. You know what I mean? I still pitch ideas like collections and it might necessarily work, but the most they could do is say no. And the most they could do is say or not respond. But that doesn't mean that in 3 months from now, they're not going to see me somewhere else and be like, oh, she wrote an email. Let me respond back to her. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. When was that moment in your career where you were like, whoa, like this, I could never imagine that this would be happening to me right now?
There were a lot of big points. The first one I did was when I was still living in Florida with my family. I won American Apparel contest and I flew out to LA and got my first $1,000 check for taking pictures. And I'd never seen the check that big because I used to work on them. So I got that check, and there was a model at the time I was with who's an amazing photographer now. And she told me I was so hyped about the $1,000 check. And she's like, honestly, this is one of the smallest checks I've ever had for modeling. And I was like,
what?
$1,000 for me was so much, but it was so little for her. And then that made me change my thought process on it. And I flew back to Florida and I literally told my mom, I have $2,000. I'm going to go, to New York, and I'm going to try to move and live there and see if I can make a career out of whatever. And it was the best decision I made at the time. That was a big aha moment when that check situation happened. And the second one was when I signed for my first capsule collection with Boohoo, and being able to sort of convince a brand in a way to do plus size lines and, push that whole, revolution forward a little bit more. And then the last one was recently, probably when I signed with Wilhelmina. That was big. It felt like at a point nobody wanted me because I was so different. I felt different even though people might not think that I am different, I only felt different because for so long behind the scenes that I wouldn't talk about, so many brands would say I'm not the right fit for them. It was frustrating to see, you know what I mean, or hear, but I'd rather it be honest than not. And so when I got with Wilhelmina, it was sort of this is good for at the moment,
Mm-hmm. Did they approach you, or was that something that you actively pursued?
I've been living in LA for a year now. And 6 months after living here, I went to Wilhelmina, LA, and they said at the moment I'm not the right fit for them. I went home and I'm like, whatever, this is happening for a reason. I need to stay doing things for myself. Then a month later, I guess I just put it out in the universe type thing. And a month later, Wilhelmina, New York, I had asked them, Wilhelmina, LA, can you send my profile to New York? Because they're probably used to more people like me versus LA is very beachy and sand and
plastic.
No, not even that. They want a specific type of model.
Okay.
Beachy and maybe athletic or whatever. But I'm also 5'3", so it was signing me onto their board as a model probably to them was this isn't going to happen type thing. And then I guess they never sent my info to Wilhelmina NY, but a month later, Wilhelmina NY shot me an email and was like, hey, we want to meet with you. Can we meet with you? Whatever. And I just bought a ticket out there and I flew and I met him and signed a 3-year contract. So
what does that mean, being that you're signed? Now, does that mean that they're the ones who will find different modeling work for you? What does that actually mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's really the name itself that it solidifies your brand. It's a rapper being signed to, a agency, Rockefeller or something like that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It just sort of solidifies your brand a little bit more. And I felt like I needed that, especially this time in my life. I mean, I still have people contact me most of the time to work with me. And then I forward it to them to be able to deal with that aspect. Because especially now that I felt like it was the next step of my life and I now have the clothing brand and I'm doing so much with managing that. that it's hard for me I can't sit here now and be the fake manager that I wanted.
No more Jordan.
Yeah, I can't
you fired Jordan, Nadia.
I can't be that anymore right now because I'm so involved in like By Nadia clothing line that it feels good to be able to just like throw something over to them and then be able to negotiate and not have to deal with, you know, the back and forth, which takes a long time, you know?
And that's something that a lot of our previous guests have talked about. Like when you come to a point in your career, you really have to learn how to outsource and how to build a team around you, especially if you want to scale, because sometimes we could be our own bottlenecks, right? Like we could be what's holding ourselves back, and letting go control and finding the right partners, because you worked with the agency before in a different regard, but that wasn't the right relationship. So finding the right partner is something that helped you or is helping you grow. Right?
I'm still struggling with that. I can't front. Like, I'm not going to lie to you, but I'm still definitely struggling with that because it's like, I'll still shoot email. I know like myself, I'm like, hey, did you follow up with blah, blah, blah? Like I still am to the point where I micromanage because it's ultimately my career and no one's going to look out for you as much as you should look out for yourself. So I'll still follow up with them. And even with like By Nadia, I keep telling myself like I'm going to give my assistant girl like more work, and I end up giving her less because I just end up taking it all on because it's still at an early stage and I want it to be in the right direction versus it's like having a child, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you want to make sure that if something goes wrong, no one else can be blamed, right? Or it's like you have control over that. I definitely get that. And I think that's something we all struggle with. Like I know even for the podcast, like I probably should at this point be giving this to an editor to edit, right? But it's like, how will they know, you know, what if I don't want them to add, you know, this part or cut this part out? So it's so hard. All right, so we are taking a quick break from the episode to hear from our sponsor. And our sponsor today is the Dreams and Drive podcast. I just wanted to say that because, you know, it's my podcast and I can do that. No, but for real, guys, I just wanted to remind you that we do have Dreams and Drive t-shirts, hoodies, and crew neck sweatshirts for sale. So if you want to grab some gear, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/shop. That's dreamsanddrive.com/shop. And you can use the code DRIVER for 10% off. And I really appreciate it when you guys go on and order. It's a great way to support the podcast, support the mission, support the community. As an independent podcaster, it's really important that I get community support so that I can keep producing episodes, keep expanding. So please support if you are so inclined. I would be greatly appreciative of it. And also, if you are a podcaster, I also am offering email templates for guest outreach and marketing. So if you need help pitching guests, if you need help sending guests their prep documents before and after the podcast interviews are published, please also check that out. You can get that at dreamsanddrive.com/shop as well. All right, let's get back to the episode, guys. Especially as a creative, because you become so invested in the process and in what you're creating that you feel like if you give it too much of it away, it won't be yours anymore, right?
Exactly. And it's also the, like, I saw this like Rihanna quote somewhere recently, and it was like, if I could do your job better than you, why would I hire you? And the problem is that I do things so well because it's what I'm good at. And I want to hire people for what they're good at. And like, I'm not like my boyfriend, for instance, does tile work. I'm not going to go to his job and tell him how to lay tile because I don't know how to do it, you know? And so it's hard to delegate work that it's already my field and I'm already good at it. So why would if I could do it for free, why would I pay for someone to do it that I also do better than? So that's my biggest problem right now, is being able to find somebody who can create content for me and do the same creative direction that I want to do. Like even with By Nadia, like I pick the models most of the time. I shoot the pictures most of the time.
Really?
Like,
wow.
Yeah, I just find time. All the creative direction is me. Like I will sit on Instagram and I'll say like, models, like submit yourself, or like just everyday girls, whatever. Or if I see some girl somewhere, I'll stop on. But like, yeah, and I'm the one in there, like literally designing everything. I have a guy who develops it for me. So the only thing I don't do is like make the patterns. But other than that, I'm like super hands-on. That's why I'm here in LA, is because my whole, you know, the design aspect of it is out here in LA. So
and manufacturing as well.
We have like 3 people who like sew all the garments, and I sit down with one guy and I show him all my sketches. I show him like the fabrics I want. I go and I source the fabric. Like I buy the fabric myself, like from downtown LA. and bring it back to him. And he has the 3 people sew for me, and we do samples, and then I have to go back and adjust the samples to fit. And it's more difficult that I'm still learning now because I'm used to dressing myself and my body, and I'm like a size 12, but we're doing, small all the way to 3X. So I'm learning how to get stuff that fits for all sizes versus just my body.
When thinking about the whole fashion design process and like that's a whole business within itself, right? That's a whole nother monster. Like I know even me, I just started selling merchandise, right? I'm not even like designing the shirts, but just setting up your online store, shipping, all that stuff. It's not as easy as people would think. Like what's been your biggest struggle with developing this part of your business when it comes to like fashion design and creating clothes?
The hardest part is really getting the grading correct.
What does grading mean?
So for a size small girl, the cut of the clothing is going to be different for someone who's a 1X or 3X, and fabrics and knowing what works for all body types. I mean, it's really difficult. Like when you see brands that are like all size inclusive, like Good American Jeans, or like, I don't know, like Daya by Zendaya has a full clothing line. It's really hard. And like, that's why I really give it to people who are size inclusive, because I see so many, people who have clothing brands here in LA, but they only do like, I literally saw one brand does extra small, small, medium. If I did all 3 sizes, bitch, I would be like, not have to worry about anything, like no returns, nothing, because it's still a learning process on what people like. And what my whole like career, I've been like more of a trendsetter versus a person like, who just hops on a wave of something that's popping at the time. So it's hard for me to do stuff that's also trendy that people will buy, because it's not like I'm going to wear it one time and that's it. It's people need to buy it, if I'm producing it. So it's like trying to understand what's good for the moment. And I also want to create pieces that are going to be good for 2 years down the line, like essentials and basics. But I don't know. There's a lot of things. And designing the website, that's also, difficult. It's a lot of things. A lot.
And you want to make sure you're not leaving people out, like your core customers, right? Because if you only design like extra small, medium, like there's a whole segment of people who are rocking with you and who want to support you that will feel left out as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I definitely have learned my demographic also, but it's like, I don't want to just, get to them. Like my hardest thing is reaching out to girls who are like, not like me also. I want to be able to reach like girls who are bigger than me, girls who are smaller than me. And like, I just launched jewelry so that like all girls can wear it. And like next I want to like tackle men's clothes or unisex clothes. So I mean, I've already done one unisex piece, but, and, I shot a male model on it, but just trying to be able to do everything. And that's what I mean as in like, I should probably take help, but I have to tell myself that this brand has only been around for a year. Like I've only been doing By Nadia a year. It just hit like a year anniversary. So stop setting such high expectations for myself. Mm-hmm. So, and it's all a learning process. What I'm dealing with right now, I'm not going to deal with in a year from now.
So true. And like all these things that you're learning are just going to help you get better. And it's like you had to start somewhere, because you could have just said, I'm going to wait till everything is perfect to launch. And you'd still probably be in pre-launch phase, right? So exactly. Sometimes it's just about putting things out there and letting the universe help you make it right. One of the things that I want to talk to you about, because I think it's important, is the power of relationships. What relationship throughout your dream driving journey has been very pivotal and important to your growth as a person?
One of my biggest relationships was, or is my best friend, Shiva. I feel like that was like one of the biggest, because people came and went throughout like my whole career, and, whether it's their choice or my choice, but, she's probably been like the one who has like consistently been there, and like, is like actual team Nadia versus let me hop on this wave of what can I benefit from this person. I met her when I was 19. I didn't start blogging until I was maybe like 21. So she was the one who we were together we both started blogging at the same time. We used to go to the thrift stores together, pick out outfits and everything. And we both didn't have money then. And like, she basically, if I'm not taking my pictures, she's taking my pictures or she's editing them. And like, she's going to like school right now for a master's in therapy, and she like, works her own job. She's super busy and like internships, and she still makes it a point to help me in my career when I need it. And I do it consider her. So that was one of the biggest. Also my mom, because she like just think the other day I didn't want to go to an event, right? And she's like, my mom's like this little like country white lady from like West Virginia. And she's like, you have the best personality and like you have an it factor and no one else does. And like she just did a prep talk about how like I have such a good personality and like, I need to use that to my advantage. I'm like, I don't know, Mom, things are different now. Like I'm almost 30 and I'm tired, And like, I don't know, but she's my mom too. And then like, I've only been dating my boyfriend maybe like 2 or 3 years, but that's also been like a really strong aspect for me, being able to have somebody like through like ups and downs of it all and being able to be supportive at the same time and putting his life on semi-hold for the bigger picture, is also, being able to have people around you who believe you and you so much that they put some of their stuff on hold for whatever you want to create.
Yeah, that team and that support is so important. Thinking about people beyond your circle, right? Because there definitely are, as you said in the beginning, you were one of few, right? People who didn't look like you, but as years have gone on, the industry has changed and it's grown and people have really made their own brands. I recently I said this on Instagram. I think actually not Instagram. I forgot where I said this. I said this recently, like, looking at other people as opportunities for collaboration and not competition, because I feel like there's room for us all, but we don't all speak to the same audience, right? So I'm not going to get mad at you because you're growing, because I have my own community. So like, how do you view working with other influencers or those who are also in this space as well?
I mean, I think my thought process is really like, your community is not different from my community, and neither is like some random person, you mean? Like, it's like, no matter what situation, like we all have struggles that are similar versus, some have it way harder than others, but it's like, I don't know what it's like to be anorexic or bulimic or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know their struggle personally. And that's still a part of my community. So it's like, I literally had girls, like when I first started blogging on Tumblr, telling me like, listen, my whole family's anorexic. I've come from a line, I've dealt with it my whole life. And like the second I saw your photo, it, changed my life instantly. And I've been like this amount of days not throwing up or whatever. And it's like, when you physically look at her, you wouldn't think she's a part of my community, right? Because she's thin and you know what I mean? Like, and society should be considered like the actual ideal of what beauty would be and not necessarily me, especially back then, right? And I think that really early on made me realize that, like, that's why I wanted to be so size inclusive, because we all deal with shit. Like, she felt ugly with herself, and I'm sure girls who are bigger feel ugly with themselves. We all have our own insecurities and our issues. So, like, when I see a new person getting put on, like, I'm going to help versus it's not taking away from me and what I can do for myself. And she doesn't have necessarily the same goals as me. And if she did have the same end goals as me, it's not taking away from me, because, and everybody thinks it's a competition because like money's involved. If you're doing what you love, money is still, let me tell you something. People are like, if you love what you do, money shouldn't be a problem. No, money is still a problem and I still want money, but like you can still find ways around it. And there's so many companies and brands that are like, I was at this event a couple of days ago, and I was sitting there for like maybe an hour telling a couple girls how I was my own fake manager for a little bit, and like giving them points and tips on how they can, and they're girls who look just like me and they're the same size as me, if not a little bit bigger. Like, it's not taking away from me putting other people on. Like, if anything, I'm moving the revolution forward. Like, I'd rather have more girls out there that look like me or somewhat like me, so that everyone can feel included, because it's not about me anymore. It's about, the followers, and it's about people who look up to me. And
how do you balance, being private, but at the same time opening up your life to your followers? Because, I feel like that's something that a lot of influencers struggle with, because you want to connect with your community, but at the same time, I can imagine if you're getting, let's say, like hundreds of messages or DMs a day with people opening up their hearts and telling you their stories, like, it can get overwhelming. I would be overwhelmed, right? Just thinking about it. Like, how do you balance everything?
I still struggle a little bit with it. Like, I only I only let people see what I want them to. And I mean, I have really bad days sometimes that I don't get on social media and I don't talk about it, because I don't want to just bring negative energy to, I used to a lot, like 3 years ago or whatever, I used to just talk a ton of shit on social media and like, just go in on whatever's frustrating me or like the agencies or whatever. But I'm to the point now where like, I just sort of shut it the fuck up, and I keep my private stuff to myself, like the really, really private things that I'm thinking that are hurting me at the time or whatever, like my family issues or relationship issues or like friendship issues or whatever. I feel like I'm very relatable and I want people to see I'm an open book for the most part, but there are some things that people don't need to see. Like I literally like people will ask me things like, why did I get rid of my Jeep? Right. And like, that's such a simple question, right? To say, why did you get rid of your Jeep? And most people it wouldn't annoy them. I had said earlier, like I was in school and, I would fight people a lot. And I used to have an anger problem, like when I was young and I can't front. So like throughout my whole like 20s, I've been really working on myself and trying to like be the best version of myself. And when people ask me questions like that, you know what I mean? It's like it
can be triggering. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not like a bad thing that they're asking it. It's more like you're that invested that you want to know why I sold my Jeep, right? When you have no like that's another reason why I didn't want to put like my relationships stuff out there too much because I've done it before and the relationship didn't work out and now they want to ask questions. And now I'm in a more relationship that's more sturdy and I really think this is the person I'm going to marry and I love this person. So of course I'm going to show him off. Right. But it's like, if God forbid that were to go down south, I would not be able to deal with the questions that get asked. And it's not like I can there's some things that you don't want to talk about. And it's the stupidest reason why I got rid of my Jeep. Right. But it's just the point of why, like, it's the point of that people are so invested in me that now they feel entitled to know. And if I don't tell them, they get upset. And that's what's frustrating. I should have the option to be able to tell and show what I want to. And when you can't control that anymore, it sometimes gets frustrating.
Do you feel like that's a consequence, and not in a bad way, but that's just something that a lot of people who are entering this field and who have really big followings online deal with?
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes it's like nobody asks to be a role model, right? But you're given the position to be. So when I do something or I say something or I like curse or whatever, and it's not like appropriate for maybe a 16-year-old or a 14-year-old to hear, it's hard because I still want to influence and help the people that, appreciate me. Right. But at what point, of yourself do you give, because everybody has their private life, right? Like even people who are totally transparent, they're never fully transparent. You're not going to sit here and say everything you're thinking, right? Nobody does that. So it's hard to, what do I share and what do I not share? And also I could say something and somebody can misinterpret it. So it's very much like, it's hard to distinguish whether or not like what to say and what not to say. So that's why these past couple of years I've sort of just been, I have been telling myself I'm going to do YouTube videos for maybe 6 years now. And I never have, because I always felt like if I did, then it would make people feel more, they'd feel more
like they own you in a way.
Exactly. Entitled for me to tell you what's going on with my life. Right. And I just started this year because like I'm more secure, like in my relationship, and I'm okay to show myself a little bit more or whatever. But there's times that I like block myself off, and then there's times that I feel like talking, Mm-hmm. So it really just depends.
As we wrap up, Nadia, I want to get your perspective on the industry, right? Like, for women or even men out there who want to enter the fashion industry, whether it's from a design angle, model angle, or blogging angle, like where do you think there's really room for people to stand out and, create a space for themselves?
I don't think you should do anything out of what is your like feel for what you want to do, because so many people try to like portray an image of what they're not. And I think a lot of people see past that. And when you start doing that, then you start actually losing yourself. And then it's like you having to find yourself all over again. So I feel like if your platform is something that you're more wanting to talk, I think YouTube is the move. I feel like if you're more photos, then it should be Instagram. I mean, like, there's no reason, like in the internet wise nowadays, to not like milk every single platform that you can. I think that's the biggest thing is being able to be like authentic to who you actually are. And there's so much content now that it's hard not to make it influence you. But I think it's just really knowing who you are and being able to be transparent through that.
Mm-hmm. And I couldn't end this interview without asking you this question, because I know a lot of people probably want me to, is, what's the best tip you would have for someone when pitching a brand? Because a lot of us are out here trying to work with brands, whether, from all angles, but like, what has been a solid go-to strategy for you securing the deal?
It goes back to being like authentic and genuine. Like if I have to hop on a call with someone and like express how much I really love the brand, then if I really, really love the brand, I'm going to obviously work with them. If I somewhat don't like the brand, I'm not going to work with them. And the key is to not work with brands just because of the money. I feel like the content is going to be better that you create anyways, if it's a brand that you do like. And I think that's why a lot of the times, a lot of my photos are successful or my outfits are successful or brands want to work with me again, is because I put so much energy and thought into whatever I'm coming out with. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Should you always ask for money? Like, should you always try to do paid partnerships with brands, or is it sometimes good to do that? Okay, we can do a clothing swap or whatever they offer.
I think it depends on at what point in your career are you? In the very beginning of my career, I was doing a ton of things for free because I was building a relationship with the brand, and it worked out. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the things worked out that I had done a ton of stuff for free before. Like even to this day, like I don't get paid from like Adidas to wear their sneakers. I wear it because they're my favorite sneakers. You know what I mean? And you never know what can come from it. So I feel like if you're even just taking pictures and taking content and everything, incorporate brands you really love it and tag them, and maybe they'll see it, and to the point where they'll want to work with you again. But as far as like, if you feel like you deserve the money and you're just tired of, doing things for free and you have bills, brands need to understand that. And you can always just say like, thanks so much for reaching out, but currently at the moment, I'm only doing sponsored posts. You can just say you're super busy, which you probably already are. They most of the time got budgets. They're just using it on people who have super strong influences. But nowadays it's micro influencers who are really doing, those people who are up and coming, who are really setting the bar.
And last question, Nadia, when you feel like giving up, like what keeps you going? Because as you said, every day is not always, sunshine and bumblebees, right? So like what, I always mess it up whenever I do that. Like I make up new metaphors every time.
All the time. The best.
But like what keeps you going on those days where you're like, I just want to throw everything in the garbage and start over?
Providing for myself and my family, and being able to like hit milestones that I never had before. And a lot of the times I always feel like, I'm in competition with myself. So I always have to do better than what I did before. I also think that's why I don't see other people as competition, because I'm always in competition with myself and hitting another bar that I haven't last time. The biggest thing that keeps me going is that small steps that are small accomplishments, I juice it up more so that it gives me that momentum to keep going. It's like little things that matter. It's like if your boyfriend brings you home like food one day, you acknowledge the positive in it versus like the negative, It's like, I'm trying to think, for instance, like for now, right? My sales aren't like the best on By Nadia because I haven't dropped spring yet. And I ran out of a lot of sizes. But I just got a feature in Vogue Brazil for it. So it's like, you have to acknowledge the positive versus the negative. I could sit here all day and dwell like, oh, I ran out of all my, I only have smalls and mediums left. I ran out of all my bigger sizes and the smalls aren't selling, but I just got my shit inside Vogue Brazil. So it's like one of those things you have to like focus on the positive versus focusing on the negative. And that's what really keeps me going.
I definitely agree with that. So Nadia, let's go to our lightning round. So this part of the interview, I'm going to give you a prompt and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind. And remember, we're sticking with our whole dreams and drive metaphor. Okay?
Okay.
So the first word is park.
When I think of park, I think of there is no parking for me because I'm always like forward motion. So I could park when I die, basically.
It's funny. The original name for this podcast was the No Parking Podcast, but I changed it to Dreams and Drive because I felt like it was catchier and people understood what Dreams and Drive meant versus no parking. Okay. The next word is reverse. Like
minor setbacks for major comebacks.
Neutral.
I think it's okay for people to stay in one place until whatever feels right for you to make your next move, until you figure out whatever move you have next.
And last but not least, drive.
That's like me going full force toward whatever I'm trying to accomplish.
Yes. And if you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So tell me 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road.
I always say like persistence is like top.
Mm-hmm.
You got to keep going if people tell you no. And goal driven is another thing. You have to know what you're really going for and if there's a why behind it. And being self-sufficient. Being able to do a lot of things yourself and not expect people to give things to you.
I love that. Persistence, being goal-driven, and being self-sufficient. Nadia, can you tell our dream drivers where they can find you and connect with you online if they want to check out your stuff or learn more about you?
Yes, most of my stuff is just my first and last name, Nadia, Nadia, and then Aboulhosn is really hard, but it's Aboulhosn.
Well, thank you so much, Nadia. This has been such a pleasure. I know that our dream drivers are probably smiling and just feel so encouraged like I do right now. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
All right, so that's a wrap for episode 146 with Nadia. I hope that you enjoyed hearing her dream driving journey as well as her keys to success. And if you love that episode, guys, if you loved it, the best thing you could do is to share it with a friend and share it on social. I love it when you guys tag us on Instagram, share it in your stories, send a tweet about it, post it on Facebook. Please do that. And if you want to tag us, just use Dreams and Drive. And if you want to talk to other dream drivers about this episode, the best thing to do is to join our Dreams and Drive Facebook group. Just go to dreamsanddrive.com/Facebook or just search Dream Driver Mastermind the next time you are logged on. So I also appreciate the reviews that you guys are leaving on the show. So if you are not subscribed to the show, wherever you're listening, please hit that subscribe button. And specifically, if you are on Apple Podcasts, I love it when you rate and leave a review. So I'm going to read the most recent review that was left. And this is by Lovisa Nyberg. And she says, wow, the Jennifer Lewis episode, I'm saving it and will be listening to it every day. Such an amazing episode. I love your podcast. Thank you, Lovisa. If you guys have not gone back and listened to episode 145, the one directly before this episode, please go back and listen. Jennifer Lewis is a legend. And the amount of feedback that I got from that episode was just phenomenal. So please go back and listen to it. And remember, our giveaway is extended. So if you want to enter to win her book, The Mother of Black Hollywood, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/win. That's dreamsanddrive.com/win to enter. So I'm still debating what I want to do for the next episode. So if you're listening to this right now, you have 2 choices. We can either talk relationships or we can talk the life of a celebrity hairstylist. So please let me know what you want to hear. Both guests are fabulous and you'll hear from them both in April anyway, but I just want to hear from you directly. What are you feeling after Nadia's episode this week, right? We had Jennifer Lewis, we had Nadia. Like, what do you guys want next? So send me an email, send me a tweet, send me an Instagram message, and let me know. And remember, if you have a nomination for a guest or know someone that would be really great for the show, you can now submit your pitch at dreamsanddrive.com/pitch. That's dreamsanddrive.com/pitch. That's how I'm accepting most pitches now. It's just the most consolidated way to deal with all of that stuff because I get a lot of pitches, guys, and I can't always respond to everyone. And if I'm interested, I'll get back to you with next steps. All right, keep dreaming, keep driving, and I hope that you guys turn all your small wins into big wins this year. All right, and here's a little bonus thing for you guys. If you listen all the way to the end, you'll hear my quick Beyonce rant. So it took me a long time to edit this episode because I was too busy watching the Beyonce Coachella 2018 performance. And if you have not watched it, please go do it. As I mentioned on Instagram, I think the biggest takeaway for me is like, you got to execute the hell out of the theme. Whatever you're working on, execute the hell out of it. Make sure that it's filled with passion. Make sure it's filled with love. Make sure you have a vision for your dreams. Make sure you execute. And another thing that I also took away from the episode is that this is not Beyonce's, day 1, right? This is Beyonce's day 20,000, whatever it is, right? So you cannot give up after day 10, day 12, day 300. You have to keep going and know that as you grow, your vision will grow, your execution will grow, and your legacy will grow. You cannot start out thinking that you're going to be on top. And you know what? As Jennifer Lewis said in episode 145, the elevator to success is broken, take the stairs. Sometimes it's so much better when you do that slow climb, right? When you learn things as you go, when you make mistakes, so that when you get to the top, your foundation is strong. So yes, please watch that Beyonce performance. And for real, the episode is over now. Bless up, blessings, keep going, don't give up on yourself. You got this.